right. Good afternoon, Nathaniel. Welcome to the Thurston County Real Estate Podcast. Today we've got a special episode on location here at one of your premier listings here in Thurston County. And we wanted to do a quick introduction. So if you just want to kind of state your name, your company that you're working with right now, and a little bit about yourself, your kind of brief intro into the business. And then we'll get into a listing video and some other stuff to highlight the property. But let's start with you, how your day is going, and who are you, where you're from, what's happening?
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for having me. It's really cool to see, be able to see Mount Rainier today and have the mountain actually out to show off. My name is Nathaniel Dickison. I work over at Van Dorn Realty. I'm a broker there, have been for a few years, and absolutely love working at a local brokerage that's as big as we are, having a ton of resources, but also having that kind of mom and pop warm feel that we do. So.
Awesome. And now that you mentioned Mount Rainier, I'm going to have to call out, haven't you been on the summit of Mount Rainier yourself?
Yeah, I actually did. Climbed it quite a few years ago. Met up with a bunch of guys, actually back when Craigslist was around. I met a guy, we went and climbed Mount Hood.
Oh, wow.
And then a few years later, he brought out a few more guys, and we ended up going up the summit of Mount Rainier. We were the first ones to summit that morning, which was real cool.
So when we talk about loving this area for its geography, which is something that you and I share in common, you really take that to the max and say, I love it so much, I climbed to the top of it.
Yeah, when I go on vacation, I don't go to other countries and explore other places. I stay in the state. I spend a lot of time doing whitewater rafting, so we travel all over Washington and run different rivers. I spend a lot of time in the mountains, so between the Olympics and the Cascades, I get some time going up and up and up.
So you sound super local, and knowing your background, you grew up here. And we'll give a quick shout out to anyone that went to high school, class of 03 or 04. Yeah. You were class of 03, I was class of 04. So we feel like two kids hanging out together back in the day because all of our references are there. And so it's really fun for our paths to cross professionally and realize like, oh man, we've both been local our whole lives. We have so many mutual friends we didn't even know about. We've probably even been in the same room before and not even known it back in high school kind of days. So
yeah.
It's really fun. One of the things of being local, and both of us I'm starting to more and more get into the community, but you're a bit of a community member already. And those are just like the sweet benefit of getting to know the people where you live and work.
Yeah, growing up around here was amazing because I met so many people that I still run into. I actually ran into somebody from high school in Colorado a while back walking down the street. It was the weirdest thing. And I have had a chance to meet so many people here between all the other things that I've done in my life. I've spent a lot of it just culturally right here. This has just been my center hub for everything that I do. So if it's not heading downtown or heading out into, like I said, out into the mountains and the rivers, I do spend a lot of time family oriented, but we do get out and we do a lot of the community-based events here.
All right, well, we've both grown up here. And I guess I want to ask, how did you get into the real estate business? And speaking from my own kind of perspective, I was just working a couple different random jobs, not exactly sure. I knew I wanted to be in finance, but wasn't sure which company to align myself with. Actually, when I was in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And I figured if I learned about finance, I could do anything and just do the accounting or the financial part of whatever that business was. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, after a couple of years, I ended up working with my dad as a mortgage lender, and that was 2010, and I haven't looked back since. So how did you find your way into real estate? It makes sense that you're still in Olympia because of the beautiful area that we love spending so much time in our community. And how did you professionally develop yourself to where you are now?
Well, when I got out of high school, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. This is 20 years ago. Like you said, shout out to 03. We just had our high school reunion a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So I went and I got into the workforce real quick. I had a friend that jumped into working at Costco in the chicken room. Okay. And he went to college and said, hey, you want to slide into this job? Well, at the time it was $3 an hour more than I was making. So I was like, absolutely. Well, I decided from there that I was going to start to work through management. And that was real important to me, was to continue to grow, not just myself, but to help other people grow as well. And I really just kind of over the years wanted to do that bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I started real estate, it was that I had just kind of tapped out everything that I could possibly do where I was, and I wanted to do even more. What better place to segue into than real estate in order to do that? And so far for me, it's been a great way to do it. I had a pretty easy transition as far as it goes. A lot of the stuff that gets done in this job translates so well to the other stuff that I've done in the past that I picked up on it pretty quick. And again, over at Van Dorn, we're just such a big brokerage, and everybody has been extremely hospitable with each other over the years that if you ask a question, you get an answer. And that's just a fantastic relationship to have with other people that you work with. So when I started doing real estate, I just really was hungry to learn the ins and outs of this side of homes because I had spent so much time working on properties myself and doing all of this building and actually, hammer and nails stuff. And to segue over now and go into this has just been a phenomenal kind of eye-opening experience because I just continue to try and understand more and more about what's going on and provide that to other people.
And so this is a really natural way for you to stay connected with your community, stay plugged into the Olympia Society here that you've grown to know and love, and properties like the one we're at today, which has this beautiful view of Mount Rainier, which we'll show and we keep talking about. But we can look at that and be like, oh yeah, you were just up there, or maybe not just up there, but it's pretty cool to have those, you have all that going on. And so to be in real estate and say, hey, you guys, you want to grow yourself, you want to get yourself personally to the next level, become a homeowner. I think homeowners are 40 times more wealthy than a renter.
Yeah,
insane.
And when I was working with my management company, when I was, can I say Costco or not?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was working with Costco, I was working through the management process, but I also wanted people to be financially literate. It was real important for me to watch these people that were living paycheck to paycheck understand how they needed to keep their, how they needed to organize and structure their billing in order to live below their means. So I worked with a lot of them, developing a program, like a Dave Ramsey style program. It's called Smart Dollar. I strongly recommend, if you haven't sat down with an Excel spreadsheet, writing that out, and just understanding your finances and being accountable for those. The people that tend to own homes are those people. They are the ones that are actually understanding, okay, what are we making? How are we able to save up? And once you're able to avoid the debt and look more into how do I grow this the opposite direction, then you become a lot more interested in home ownership. So for me, that's where it started, was working with people on a small scale and just helping them crawl out of a couple $1,000s worth of debt, and then building it into, okay, now how do you take that profit and really expand on that too, without being a financial advisor?
Well, and I always thought, real estate is just cool. There's all these neat homes out there, and I don't know what the channel is these days, but growing up for us, it was HGTV, right? Home and Garden Television. And they would have like Love It or List It and all these renovation shows and all these unique properties. And it's like, wow, that's really exciting and cool just to see these different spaces where you can be yourself. For example, you and I right now, we're doing, I guess, like a podcast. We have lights up and everything, but we wouldn't be able to do this just in any location. So to be able to have enough space, enough privacy, and all these other things, and maybe a unique location, which we'll showcase, more as I keep alluding to. That's kind of a big deal, and it's really exciting to be a part of that. On top of, yes, we get to help people, we get to provide some financial education, which I think that's empowering for us because some of the stuff that we've learned that has helped us, it's like, oh, that was pretty cool. Maybe I can help someone else with the same thing that I know.
Yeah. There's so many people out there. There's so much information out there that it bombards people. And for me, my primary goal is always to just streamline processes. How easy can I make this for people? And if I can just take the weight, take the stress, take all that, you have a great night. I will give you all the information that you need that's easy to digest, and then allow you to make the decisions comfortably and confidently that you need to make. At that point, then I feel like I've done my job. And one of the great things about growing up here is that I do have all those local resources. I have met everybody in town. When I was working over at Costco, again, 6,000 people a day were coming through the doors. Before that, even, every hobby that I've been in has just absolutely grown this group of people that I associate with. And I am the type of guy, I don't like to sit down. I have to be working all the time. And I really like to surround myself with other people that have to be working all the time. So when I do have a contact, it's usually somebody that'll pick up the phone at 9 o'clock at night. It's somebody that's willing to do those extra steps in order to help you out. They are the people that kind of wear their heart on their sleeves a bit, and they do really genuinely care about people and not just transactions. And so after I compile that list and I hand that off to somebody, it just really opens up the opportunity for them to have a really seamless, easy transaction, get themselves into a home, something that they're going to love, and then be able to move on to the next thing going on in their life.
I think that's where you and I align, is trying to just help empower people to make their decisions. I guess both of our positions as a loan officer and as a real estate agent could be considered sales positions, and go out there and try to get more clients. But one thing that really synchronized between us, or that we felt aligned on, I guess I can say, is that we just want to present the information. We understand that people are smart enough to make their own decision. They're going to see right through any of our BS if we try to present it.
Yeah.
Any hey, how's your grandpa doing? My grandfather was a fisherman. It's like, yeah, if that's really a story that comes up and you connect, great. But don't try to force all those connections or do these triangle for trust and all this stuff. If you have real networks and you can talk about it, that's great. But that's where you and I say, hey, we have information, we have experience, we'll share it. And like doing this podcast, if we can align people with similar mindsets and thought processes, then business works out. And we like getting to work with people that we like.
Yeah, there's two phrases that I absolutely can't stand. And one is building rapport, and the other one is delegate. Delegate to me just means pawning work off on somebody else, okay? If you can delegate it, then more than likely you can identify what needs to be done and actually give people direction. It's a very, very different process, despite being just about the same, having the same meaning. Building rapport, to me, it should be natural. You should not need to try to do it. It's something that you're either genuinely going to do or you're not going to do well.
And I think we understand that, right? It's like if we get along, sweet. And I wish I got along with everyone and I could do every single person's loan. But that's not reality. Not everyone's going to like that I do a podcast. And maybe some people that do, and they feel they get a chance to know me through it, then that's cool, and we'll work something out. So it's all about putting ourselves out there. We have connections that we can help people, and we have knowledge that we can help people by sharing it. And that's kind of our whole stance, is here, take what we have. If it can be helpful to you in any way, great. And if we get to do business together, then that's good for us too. But I think we put ourselves in businesses to where we can share the knowledge out, and then hopefully the results will come in as they should without us having to try to force results. And this way we're able to feed our families and live and do a good thing without being so stressed about it and like so high key on like, oh, I hope they call me back.
Yeah, I put myself in a pretty good position early on to where I'm not too worried about my financial future right now. As much as, yes, I still need to have an income, I am not banking on your transaction paying my mortgage next month. I don't have that desperation. And that goes a long way when I'm talking with somebody and saying, hey, look, I want to do what you want to do. I am not trying to push you into something that you're not interested in. I'm not trying to escalate your price point or anything like that. I want to honestly just take care of you and show you that it can be done, because there's so many people that over the last 10, 20, 50, even longer, there's so many people that over the last 10, 20 years have said year after year, it's too expensive, it's too expensive. And you've just watched it climb and climb and climb. And it's like, when are you going to jump in?
Yeah, when is it going to get less expensive?
Exactly. The price of a candy bar is not going to be less expensive tomorrow than it was today. And what in your right mind tells you that that's going to change? Now, the trends, definitely, there's a roller coaster, but if you look, I mean, it's just going up. It's always been a safer play than most other things to get into. I always like to purchase things that I can essentially sell again if I need to. So having things like real estate do definitely play a role in me just being able to sleep at night, because I know that if I need to do something, I can.
What do you think about this phrase that says you can never overpay for a real estate because eventually it's going to be worth that much?
Right. Yeah.
Which I think that's true, but that also to me goes into like shady sales tactic.
Exactly.
Like,
you have to be careful. My
whole point there though is like appreciation is a real thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can try to time the market, but if you go in, nobody in the stock market, it's like a known fact. Timing the market is a fool's errand. And if you just dollar cost average and buy in as you can, and your average over a time period is going to be way better than if you would have picked the most profitable days ever.
Yeah. So when I purchased my house and I had my first mortgage, it was more than rent. Okay. It is not supposed to feel good when you get a house. The payment is not supposed to be something where you can relax. It's hard work and it takes effort, and you have to realize that yes, you are going to make a few sacrifices to that lifestyle you've been living. The chances that you aren't are pretty slim, but you give it a few years and all of a sudden rent has continued to grow. Your mortgage has stayed relatively the same. And so over the years, all of a sudden, not only does it kind of make sense, but it's this eye-opening thing where I'm paying less for an acre and a 3-2 house, a 3-bed, 2-bath house, than you are for a studio apartment. Right. Now you're looking back going, man, I should have probably jumped on it then. And the whole time I'm sitting there going.
And the kicker is, when you're ready to move 10 years from now, you've gained X amount of equity, and now you have your down payment saved up for the house saved up. Your house said, hey, bro, I got you. I'm just going to start saving money. Yeah. And you're like, cool, do I have to do anything? And it says, no, just make your payment on time.
Yeah. So continuing to just invest and understand what your budget needs to be is super important to me. Again, financial literacy, it needs to be taken head on by the person that's in charge of it. That's you. You need to take control and take accountability of your finances and say, this is what I have available. What do I need in order to be able to save? How do I live below my means? Yep. What am I spending on coffee every day? Right? If you cannot answer what you're actually putting your money towards, then you need to break it down and figure it out. That's going to be the first step just to starting. That's long before you call me. It's long before we get you pre-approved. You really just need to understand, what are your finances like? Now, if you need help with that, I'm happy to give that stuff away. I absolutely love sharing things like that. Excel spreadsheets, I'm just absolutely obsessed with data.
Yep, get your 12-month budget and figure out what your decision today affects you 6 months from now.
And you don't need to use anything fancy. You can do it on a napkin. It's a very, very simple thing. It's just that people are very scared to look at their finances sometimes. And I encourage you, you don't need to be, okay? Make yourself accountable for that stuff. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll start moving in the right direction.
So it sounds like you want to take the prudent approach, be comprehensive, but you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to get crazy complicated, but do your diligence and make sure you're setting yourself up for success.
Again, keep it simple. Yep. What are you spending? Where's it going? Are you okay with it? If you are, then great, leave it alone. But if you're not, you really need to think about it. And once you start making yourself aware of what you're spending your money on, if you're not okay with it, you start changing that. The psychological stuff starts kicking in as you're going to the grocery store, as you're running through the checkout. It starts to click. Hey, maybe I shouldn't add that to my cart. I can do without that because there's a bigger goal. Recently, this is kind of a monumental thing for me. I paved my driveway, okay? 15 years I've been staring at this driveway. It's gravel, it's bumpy, I get the water coming down, it ruts up it drove me nuts. But over the years, I said, I'm going to put away X amount of dollars. And rather than $20-ing myself to death, I saved that money, I put it away until I got to the point where I said, that's it, I can do it. I do not regret that at all. You'll never be able to have one of those big expenses if you continue to buy those little things. And a lot of people understand this stuff. It's simple. It's just, when are you going to act on it? And again, those are the people that I find are jumping into buying homes, are the people that are understanding, this is my budget, this is what I do have available, and I'm ready now to make that decision.
And for those people, we're here to help. We can walk them through some of their calculations to make sure everything's on target. And then obviously you can help show properties and actually get them in there, write up some offers, and get them tucked away into a nice piece of real estate. But speaking of keeping it simple, I think we should follow that rule ourselves. We'll finish up our little expose podcast deal here, and let's go check out the rest of this house. What do you say?
It sounds great.